Welcome to the Off Tackle with John Fina Show on the Overreaction Sports Network.
Welcome in, everybody. It is time once again for the Sahlen's Off Tackle with John Fina Show with none other than the man whose name is on the show, John Fina. I'm the big O, Jerry Ostrowski, and we'll be bringing you the show tonight. We'll be talking, obviously, about a little bit about what's going on at One Bills Drive as we try to find a new head football coach. We'll stay mostly into that, but John, it's good to have you back. Good to see you, man. Just good to have you on the show. How you doing?
Well, it's been rough sledding for the Finas over the past week or so, Jerry, and thanks to people like you and Joe and everybody from the network and Bills Mafia. I think probably most people know my father passed away last Wednesday, and it was pretty rough. A lot of my siblings were in town, a lot of the nieces and nephews, grandkids were there, and my father lived a beautiful life, and he loved the Buffalo Bills. He loved coming in the locker room, and I'm sure you remember him yucking it up with the guys. And it was tough. I put it out there. I was struggling with what to say on Twitter, but I got just such a wonderful response from all the people that acknowledged his passing. And we were lucky, Jerry. He was a good man. He went peacefully. He went painlessly. And he joins my mother now in the kingdom of heaven. And I guess it's as good as we could hope for each of us. And I know I'm not the only one. I know people in this chat have lost people. I know you've lost your father, and you've lost loved ones and people that you're close to. And it's the support from you and Joe and Zig and Bills Mafia, family and friends that really just kind of keep you afloat when it hits you from moment to moment. So I just want to say thanks to everybody for that.
I had the pleasure of knowing Chuck, talked to Chuck many, many times, and a lot of Chuck is in you, by the way, my man. You and Chuck are very similar. I'd have to think that, we don't say it, we never admit it, but we all have our favorites. And I'd have to think that you were, one of Chuck's favorites, if not his favorite. But I don't think people understand just the story of the Finas and John Fina being in Buffalo and understanding that the Fina journey started in Rochester. It started in Western New York. And this thing was meant to be. I mean, it was a story that was meant to be. It started in Rochester. It moved to Tucson, Arizona, and it eventually came back to Western New York in the Buffalo area. And I think that's a story that's awesome. And not many times do we get to live that, and I think it was really cool that your family got to experience that. And you got to have so many damn Finas at every game. I mean, half a section of the seats was Finas, I think that's pretty special, John.
It was amazing. And like you said, Kismet, meant to be, whatever. It was, in the 60s and 70s and even the 80s, families didn't travel like they do now. And I just remember seeing my Rochester cousins, once every 6 or 7 years for either a wedding or a funeral. And then me coming to the Buffalo Bills, it was just a natural family reunion up to 5-6 times a year. It was incredibly special, if nothing else. If nothing else, me getting picked by the Buffalo Bills brought the Fina family so much closer together, and it still is that way today. And I think this was really the impetus for it. And that's one of the many anchoring reasons why, I'm a Buffalo Bill to the day I expire. It's just been incredible.
I always commended you for that, because I remember I had an opportunity to go back to Philly where I grew up. And they're like, man, you're going back, right? I'm like, hell no, I'm not going back there with all those people wanting tickets and bothering me and showing up and being like, hey, remember, we're boys. And my aunt I hadn't seen in 20 years. But no, man, I think it was awesome. It's a really cool story. And so obviously, I'm glad we got to touch on that. And John, like I said, condolences to the family. But Chuck was man, no sadness here, dude. Chuck was Chuck was awesome. Absolutely awesome. And to live that long and have the life he had, I think it's something to talk about.
Thanks, Jerry. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
But hey, as we're sitting here on the Sahlen's Off Tackle with John Fina show, if you notice, I've got as the Canadians call, a toque on my head, or otherwise known as a knit hat. I got a foot of snow outside my window, Fina. I'm like in right now. It's like 19, not even, I think it's like 15 degrees. It's freezing. I'm cold. I don't know what to do with myself. So I got my knit hat on, but something we need to talk about, John. And I wanted to talk about it with you tonight because so many of us had an opportunity over the last couple of weeks to discuss it. But obviously, Sean McDermott let go by the Bills. Bills now in the process of finding a new head coach. Kind of your initial thoughts on this, maybe where you'd like to see the Bills go, what you're looking for in a head coach, and just kind of your thoughts and everything with this coaching search by the Bills.
Yeah, it's interesting, Jerry, because obviously, it came at a time when I was otherwise distracted, but you can't help yourself with social media. You open it up and you're reading opinions and the anger and the agreement and what have you about Sean being gone and then not Brandon Beane, and everybody was all over the map. And I just resigned myself to not comment because I just, I'm busy and then kind of soaking it all in and being surrounded by family and everything that I was going through. I started trying to use that as a prism for where the Bills go next. And I think some people might look at it and say it sounds silly and this and that. But one of the things that we love about the Buffalo Bills of this year and previous years with Sean McDermott, when we talk about the culture, we talk about these players really buying in to one another and really liking one another, spending time together. That's sort of reflected in what we've been going through as a Fina family right now. And I was thinking about the value of that and the importance of that. And I think first and foremost, they're going to have to find a candidate. And you could generally, and you know this as well as I do, when you meet people, you can generally figure out where they stand on their ability to connect with people. And are they warm? Are they cold? Do they understand? Are they listening to a question just to have their turn to speak, or are they really connecting with people? I'd like to see that continue. I think that's important. Wins and losses aside, we hear from when we played about so many places that you didn't want to go because the culture was so bad. And I experienced that. And I know you did too. Nobody wants that. But secondarily, to your point, to the question, I think now's the time that I would like to see an offensive-minded head coach. All right? I love Sean McDermott, love what he did, but I think if we're going to go in a direction now, it's got to be somebody with some proven chops on the offensive side of the board. That's like kind of my base layer. Jerry, are you on mute? You're on mute, big guy. I don't know how that happened.
I'm sorry. But that's no, okay. I agree 100% with you. I want to see, I'd like to see one of these young guys. Let's go ahead and bring some new blood into this thing. Let's bring some new ideas, because I think right now, John, we got so many different scenarios we could possibly go with. Do you bring in Dable, or does Dable bring in Davis Webb, and or do we keep Joe Brady, and do we bring in Dable as Joe? It's just like, I can't see that happening. And to be honest with you, I don't want anybody that's tied to the old staff, because to me, and when you look at this thing, what are you really doing? You went through a 2-week dog and pony show just to be able to get rid of Sean McDermott, saying that McDermott was the reason. So we found a way to get rid of him, and we're going to just keep the rest of the band back together and we'll be fine.
Yeah,
I don't agree with that. If you're going to make these changes, you got to have the guts, anyway, the way I feel, to go big. And
well, I totally agree with you, Jerry. I think you hit it. You're spot on with that. And you also run the risk, if you're Brandon Beane, you run the risk of having, an insurgent already in your building.
Right.
If there's somebody tied to the old staff who might have been closer to McDermott than they were to you. That's why I think Dable is an outlier, but I think Joe Brady is a no for sure. And going a little deeper on why Joe Brady, I don't think is the guy, is going back to what we said about 3-4 weeks ago, where I said this version of the offense can go well. Like we would have a chance if we were running a little bit more of an old school play action pass, limited deep balls, but a little bit more maximum protection here and there, spotty. I think we could have evolved into a Super Bowl contention team. The problem is, I think by the time maybe that aha moment struck, it's too late. There's no time for evolution, right? You start with something like that and it continues to evolve. And I don't think Joe Brady had a grasp of that, whether it was just him or there are other forces involved. The personnel didn't fit the offense that we were trying to force into it for the better half of 2/3 of the season, right? Dable, I'm hesitant on Dable. I like coaches that get their first job as an HC and maybe it doesn't go very well and they have a chance to reflect. But I think a time spent away from that job before he moves back into the role makes more sense for guys like that. So Dable might find a role somewhere as an offensive coordinator. Maybe somebody else hires him as head coach. I don't see us going that direction. I like what you're talking about, youth. I think Davis Webb, obviously, great youth. Udinsky, is that how you say it? Udinsky?
Yeah, Udinsky.
I think Clint Kubiak.
Come on, John. I mean, a Polish guy in Buffalo as the head coach? Come on, bro. This is like a dream come true.
Dream, right? Pierogies for everybody, Jerry.
He also grew up out there where I grew up. He's a PA guy. He grew up out by me in Doylestown. So, yeah, there's all kinds of similarities, man.
I think what a lot of people like you and I think when we see a younger guy, I think they're a bit more receptive to things that are adaptable from the college game, because the college game still, to me, is kind of the crucible for new and crazy and wild and fun ideas, especially offensively. And I think the NFL borrows a little bit of that, but they can't do some of the stuff that they do at the college level because you don't have that many holes at as many positions as you do in college, where you might have 7 guys that can really play defense, but 4 guys, not so much, right? You might have 1 or 2 holes or 3 tops in the NFL, but I like that idea. All these candidates that we see, the ones that we mentioned at least, are coming from a good age bracket that we like, an energy bracket, and an offensive mind. So
I think one of the things, and I think I like what you're saying, and I agree wholeheartedly, but I think what we're going to see is this. Obviously McDermott gets moved on. A lot of people felt that Bean should have went with him. Now Bean's still here. Bean gets a promotion. I think we're going to see maybe just a kind of blueprint on whose theory is what and who wants that. Because if, say, for instance, they keep Joe Brady, to me, that's kind of a telltale sign that maybe everybody eats, and what we're doing is actually a theory that is brought upon by the general manager,
right,
as opposed to McDermott. Because so far, what we've done for 2 weeks, it's a Spider-Man meme. We're doing this, one camp's pointing that way, one camp's pointing this way, right? But really, we're all the same. And I look at it as we're going to find out real fast with this coaching hire and everything else. Did we need a partial knee replacement, or do we need a full knee replacement? Right.
Yeah. Right.
And I think that's something that we're going to find out. And I would love to see younger blood in this thing. I really would. New ideas.
I think a Hemi is the wrong way to go, Jerry. I don't think
I do too. I don't either. Right. I think they wear out eventually. Although it's worked out well for Lindsey Vonn. She's going to ski in the Olympics, but that's Lindsey Vonn.
She's up here. You and I are down here.
Yes. She's also not 300 some pounds.
You bring up a good point too, with the actions from Brandon now, with respect to the Joe Brady situation. Is he going to find somebody that he can keep under his thumb?
Right.
And then if that's the case, if we don't see roster changes, then we're going to know that it was Brandon Beane top to bottom. Right. And it's so hard. You say, oh, well, McDermott wanted Keon. I didn't. And, there's all this, like you said, you, me, and Joe in a, circular firing squad. And to me, I just think I love the idea of a young offensive minded coach coming in here. But I think a huge part of that interview is going to be, hey, Brandon, everybody and their mother is looking at Josh Allen and saying, why do you not have a Jamar Chase for a guy like that? Or why do you not have insert any wide receiver one name? Why do you not have that? You've got a lot of other pieces in the room, but we need another one guy to go along with Shakir and Kincaid and Knox and, whichever names you choose to add into that. But if I come in and say, who we getting, and you don't have a short list and a plan right now, Brandon, then I'm like, I'm out.
I think if you look at candidates, probably as far as the new blood goes, the one that has the most experience, understands play calling more than any of them and all that is obviously Kubiak. Agreed. Kubiak, though, is going to be 2 weeks from now. Okay. So the risk that you take if you wait for Kubiak is at the end of 2 weeks, you don't get him. And then the Adinskis and the rest of the guys have moved on. And now
right.
now you're back to plan Z. So I think that's something you have to look at. Obviously, Udinsky and then also Webb. Part of me thinks that Dayball's still going to be involved in this somehow. I could see Dayball getting the head coaching job with Webb being his offense coordinator. So
there's a possibility to that,
right?
And,
so you got two of Josh Allen's best friends. Two of Josh Allen's best friends are the head coach and the OC or quarterback coach if that happens.
And I think, Jerry, what you hit on that is you've got when you have two offensive-minded kind of guys, I think a lot of people think there might be head bashing, right? Fighting about. I think it's the opposite, generally speaking. When you're going to get, the offensive coordinator comes in with Davis Webb, so to speak. It says, this is kind of what I'm seeing it. You have a head coach who can look from, a little bit of a distance and they can have those meetings and bounce things off of people. I don't know that Joe Brady had anybody like that. Right. There was really no place to go. So a lot of people will say, well, let Josh do what Josh wants to do. And I don't know Josh personally. I don't know what his, call it football IQ, call it historical knowledge of football. Maybe Josh isn't that guy, but he's a performer. So, you can't rely and just say, well, he's a quarterback, he knows football. Not all those guys want to be at that level. And I think having two guys, the head coach and the OC, I think there could be a real mesh there.
Right. And I still think in the back of my mind and believe somehow, some way Dable's going to be involved in, although it's hard to take a guy that's been fired this season and make him right. That, if he was a year or two off of being fired by New York, it'd be one thing. So there's that whole thing as far as
it wasn't a beautiful run for Dable.
No, he did have the coach of the year right out of the box, but then after that it just crashed and nosedive. Let me ask you this, because this got a lot of run this week, and it's something that I was excited about, and I still think and hope that at some point down the road, whether it's the Bills or somewhere else, he gets involved in the NFL. Phillip Rivers obviously was interviewed by the Bills, and everybody was like, "Oh, what are we doing? We lost our minds." It's like, honestly, that was probably one of the more intelligent things we've done lately. I really like Phillip Rivers. I like what he's about. He knows football. He understands coaching, and you can say what you will. John, you've done it. I've done it. If you can handle a bunch of freaking 15 to 18-year-old kids, you can handle anybody. Right. And probably the only thing harder to coach than a high school team is the middle school. So if you can do those things, you can handle professional athletes. We know he knows football and all that. I was intrigued by him. I hope he does get in at some point. Your thoughts on Phillip Rivers?
Well, I think that his personality, right? I mean, he's got a very strong Christian or Catholic, what do you want to call it? Like a stream to him, right? I mean, he's a very religious guy. And I think that and I don't know him, obviously, if he's the kind of guy that is a leader of men, who's a believer and wants to believe in men in general, I think that's a huge character add. And I think that's a lot of what we liked about Sean McDermott. Sean McDermott was always I believe in my guys. I love my guys. And if you have that feeling from the head coach down, you generally are going to get a hell of a lot more buy-in than the kind of thing that you and I experienced my last year in Buffalo, right? You can't coach like that anymore. As far as his chops go, as far as his coaching chops, I think there's game management stuff is super important. But by and large, a huge aspect of what you do as a head coach is really just kind of timing and logisticals and everything that practice is set up. Everything flows beautifully. And then you got to be able to deliver a message. You got to be a motivator. You have to be, a good listener. You have to be like your property manager, firm, fair, and, honest, right? As best you can. I agree that he's probably going to work his way into that. I think this interview is a good start for him. It might be early, and I think you might see people in Bills Mafia lose their mind if you pluck a guy from the high school level. So I think it was probably not the time to hire him, but I think it's the time for him to start getting involved in this type of environment that players want to be a part of now, where it's so open and the culture is so important.
What I will say is this, and I hope we've learned a lesson, or I shouldn't say we've learned a lesson. It's been 9 years since we've hired a coach, but I hope I hope we're hiring to a plan we already have in place, not doing the opposite and trying to scramble and plan to a hiring. So I hope that we are hiring based upon a plan that we already have in place, knowing that, okay, we're going to make these moves. We're going to do this here. We're going to try to get receivers, whatever. And we're trying to match our head coach to our plan that we have in place that we can do, as opposed to, as John would say, when Tom Bresnahan, our line coach, we'd be watching film and we're watching pass protection, and Tom would go, "Hey, Fina, what do you got here, baby?" And John would go, "Panic." And it's like, it was, hopefully we're not in that stage where we're just hiring somebody and then it's panic. We've got to figure out what we're doing,
Oh, I agree with you, Jerry. I just, my concern is that the way this all came out almost just looked, and like, I don't know Brandon that well. I hope this wasn't just a, power grab, because if that's what this was, hey, Sean, I'm going to be the general manager and I'm going to be the director of football op, or whatever the title is,
president of football operations,
and you're going to report to me, not to Terry. And Sean was like, not cool. And then you're out and I don't have a plan. Now, I think it's 50-50. I'm on your side of what I want, but I have a little bit of fear here.
We're going to find out real quick, I think. We're going to find out once we see who gets hired and how this thing's going. We're going to figure out, it's going to uncover itself very, very clearly. And one thing that I know clearly is you, Mr. Fina, are really experiencing and having a great time at the Anchor Bar in Tucson, Arizona. And obviously the Anchor Bar, a proud sponsor of the Overreaction Buffalo Sports Network, in the home of the original Buffalo Chicken Wing in Buffalo. We all know the story. Frank and Teresa Bellissimo invented the wing, I believe, in '64. If you're in Buffalo, go hit the Anchor Bar. If you're not, and you want some of the fresh jumbo, never frozen wings with a variety of sauces, and you're in one of 17 different cities in the United States, one of those cities being Tucson, John, just let our listeners, fill them in on the experience you can get at the Anchor Bar.
Well, unfortunately, we lost. We lost the game to Denver, but I was surrounded by Bills Mafia, the chapter here at the Anchor Bar, and it was fantastic. I went around, shook everybody's hand, took as many pictures as I could with everybody. Wonderful group of people. Place was just jamming. Unfortunate result in the end, but you know what? An incredible, incredible space and atmosphere. And my daughter works there. I love that. She's kicking butt. And it kind of got us through a little bit this week, Jerry, when we were like, we are saddened by the loss of our father. And my God, now we got to cook. Well, guess who bailed us out? We got
Yeah.
Anchor Bar. We got takeout from Anchor Bar, and it made at least one or two of the evenings a little easier on us with fantastic wings. So thank God for Anchor Bar. Get over to the Anchor Bar.
Check them out. Great food, not just wings, beef on weck, pizza, everything else. Anchor Bar, proud sponsor of the Overreaction Buffalo Sports Network. Well, we're about there. We got about 5 minutes, John. Maybe some closing shots, some closing arguments, some things maybe you want to see from the Bills here as we move along, trying to find a head coach. I think Adam Schefter of ESPN said he thinks things will be done across the board in the next couple of days, at least by Wednesday. That's all teams in the NFL. It'll be interesting to see if that happens.
Yeah, well, I mean, that puts a couple of people out of contention, right? Clint Kubiak, since I don't know how that goes, unless there's a little dealing under the table like they do in college now. Who knows? I mean, conversations could be going along.
Well, I brought that up today, and they're like, you can't do that. I mean, that's tampering. I go, come on, bro. I mean, loose lips sink ships. As long as people keep their mouths shut, there's all kinds of stuff that happens.
I'll tell you what, Jerry, this is what I plan to do. I am going to load up some Sahlens from the Off Tackle Show with John Fina. I'm going to bring Sahlens over to whomever quietly and drop off the beautiful Sahlens hot dogs and deli meats going back to 1869 as a family business, now also used as bribery and hiring head coaches. The Sahlen family, 5 generations, turning out the best hot dogs in Western New York, and not just there. Check your local grocer. They've got partnerships all around the country. And if you don't have a grocery store that near you carrying wonderful Sahlen's products, go to Sahlen.com, order up your favorite flavor, and have them sent to you. Cover it in Weber's mustard, cover it in kraut, cover it in chili. Great product, wonderful people. Thanks for your sponsorship. Jerry, listen, I don't know where this is going. I wish, and the last point I want to ask you, and we can discuss, in your opinion, does Josh Allen have a say in head coach pick, in OC pick? Does that come up in your world?
I personally think he can put his opinions in when asked. I don't think Josh Allen should have any say in who the head coach is. That's just my opinion. I've always been players play, coaches and administrators administrate, and they coach. And there should be a line between the two. Yes, does he demand a little bit more respect than others? Of course he does. I mean, this is reigning MVP, one of the best players in the league, if not the best player in the league. But I think he has so much on his plate already. And Josh is a different beast. He's not a guy that – I don't think he thrives on this. Like, he doesn't yearn for being involved in everything. I think a lot of that stuff weighs on him. It's heavy on his shoulders. You know, he likes to be the guy to make sure everybody's happy.
Yep.
So, you all of a sudden you're involved in, the first thing they go is Josh Allen approved, and then the guy flops, and that's one more thing that he's got to deal with. So, I think you go ahead and you let him put his 2 cents in, do some Zoom meetings and things like that. But I don't think he's in on maybe the final say, by no means. But I that's just kind of my opinion. I don't know how you feel about that, but I think that there is a fine line in that whole decision-making process with, because what kind of power does the head coach have if the quarterback's sitting there like this in the meetings and, you let it be known that I'm the guy that picked you. Mm-hmm. So now all of a sudden, where's the power in that whole power structure, right?
Yep. And here's why I agree with you on a maybe at a little bit different level. People ask me all the time, what do you think of the Arizona Wildcats, or, the next team on Duke's schedule, or, what do you think about the Seattle Seahawks offense or the New Orleans Saints? And I say, you know what? I am so consumed. There is so much on the plate with just the Buffalo Bills and the Duke Blue Devils. I really don't have the time in the day, and very few of us do. I know you do, and a lot of the professionals that we work with can sit down and really digest film from Seattle for an entire season and watch enough of it that you really understand what Kubiak is doing and why it works. I just don't like the idea of a quarterback making picks like that. It doesn't make sense to me, and I agree with you. coaches coach, players play. You want to get guys where there's a good working relationship, and there ought to be, because the focus is winning every damn game and winning the Super Bowl.
I have a little bit of a issue too with we tend to drop the moniker upon Josh Allen as he is the franchise. He is everything Buffalo Bills. Now, yes, he is that type of player, but the deal is this. If the Bills are healthy, no one player is bigger than the franchise. No one player is bigger than the team. No, not a one. So if we're going to say that he is the franchise and he should be making all these things, then he should get all the blame when they go to Denver and they lay an egg. Okay, you can't have it both ways. And, I think that's where the rubber meets the road and all this, and why I have the issue with, him look, there's got to be that line between player and coach. It's the way it needs to be. It's healthy and all that. Like I said, I'm not against him throwing feedback in, but he does not need to be choosing who he wants to coach the team.
Totally agree. And I think what you're getting at is there's really no absolutes, right?
Right.
It's not absolutely Josh's fault. And if this team is healthy, do we win that game? I think so. Does a call go better in our direction? Yes. Did Josh make a couple of boneheaded mistakes? For sure. But if you watch enough football and you know where to look, every player on the field that game made 2 mistakes easily. Right? It's just obvious when you see a quarterback make a mistake. And before we get out of here, I'm gonna throw this out to our lovely audience and everybody in the chat. It's a bit of an apology. After the loss against Denver, I went on a rant or a tirade. I don't regret the rant or the tirade. I regret a little bit of the profanity. I think that was a little mixed up with what I knew was coming in my family, which is no excuse. But to all those, I apologize for my language, certainly not my verve and my love of the team and my disappointment. And I did say something that I want to clarify. I don't blame Josh, even though his mistakes were, those 2 mistakes really were just kind of god awful. And the reason I say that is the style of the offense, the people we have in the room. Josh, I think, was compelled in his brain that he had to be the guy. And when you start thinking that you're the guy, that you're the end all beat all, then you start making decisions that you really shouldn't have to think you need to make. And that's it.
All right. Fina, that's why you're my dog, man.
Woof.
That's why you're my dog. And that's why I love you. And that's why I appreciate you, man. Couldn't be said any better than that. And yeah. I'm glad you're back here tonight. It's good to have you back on the show. I don't know what I was going to do if I had to talk to Miller again. I mean, damn, I can only, it got to be too much. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
I know you're
kidding. I'm kidding, Joe.
I'm looking forward to when the 3 of us together, maybe Zig, maybe, Buffalo Freddy, maybe Anthony Marino. We get together and we have a bourbon. And everybody in the chat, if you come to Tucson, Arizona, I don't know why you'd stay in Buffalo or Tulsa with all that weather. Come to the Anchor Bar. We'll sit down at the bar and we'll have a good long drink.
I think we do need to have everybody on the show one night this offseason. Everybody, massive screen, 8 of us, whatever it is, 5 of us, and have a good show. I think that
just send out the invite to everybody. That'd be cool.
Send it out to everybody. But anyway,
give everybody 10 seconds for a toast. That'd be cool as hell.
But everybody in the chat, thanks for joining tonight. We appreciate you. Everybody listening at home that's spending the time to tune into this show, the Sahlen's Off Tackle with John Fina Show. Thank you for tuning in. We appreciate you. We very respectful of your time and energy. And thanks as always. Hit the like, hit the subscribe, rate the show, tell your friends. Overreaction, man, we got a lot of momentum going on, and that's because of you guys. And once again, another successful year for us. Things going in the right direction. And thank you. We appreciate you. So, John, any last words before we get out of here?
Thanks, everybody, for this season, and look forward to what we got coming next. I mean, we're going year round. So Jerry and I are going to talk with Joe about how we want this show to look. We're going to bring up some people and keep reviewing film. and keep looking forward, keep the hopes high, and we'll keep following this coaching hire business, and we're going to bring it home one day. I'm always a believer in that. But today, tomorrow, and always, go Bills.
Much love, folks. Thank you very much. Go Bills.